Good morning, Chris from the Headache and Pain Management Centre here, and today we are talking about the biggest myth when it comes to chronic pain, the one that I want to stamp on with my foot, crush like a little can and throw it into the wrecking yard, because this is the one myth that is the one that crushes people's hopes, dreams and everything else, and that is this. This is the biggest myth, okay? The myth is that you should only rest when you have chronic pain. There could not be a bigger myth, a bigger mistruth out there about chronic pain. So we're going to talk through that one today. If you're joining us, please type in below and say hello and ask any questions that you think might be relevant. We'll get back to you. Now, we're talking about this myth today. We're talking about that you should only rest when you have chronic pain. This is not the way to go if you have chronic pain. Chronic pain is something that needs to have some movement associated with it. You have to move as much as you possibly can when you have chronic pain conditions, okay? The more that you move, generally the better things feel to a certain point, okay? So we need to actually be a bit more specific here. Now, if you've got one of these following conditions, if you have fibromyalgia, if you have chronic fatigue syndrome, if you've got myalgic encephalitis, if you've got any of these Ross River fever, post-viral things, okay? With these particular conditions, we do need to be careful with the way that you do exercise, because there is an element of fatigue that comes in with these conditions. So you need to work with your doctor, you need to work with your allied health professional, your exercise physiologist to work out what the right balance of movement and exercise versus rest is for you. So if you are one of those people, this might be less relevant, okay? So I want to be very clear, if it's fibro, if it's any of these types of conditions where you're being managed by a rheumatologist, then you do need to talk to them about fatigue management. But for your garden variety kind of chronic low back pain, garden variety whiplash, you know what's garden variety, but you get the drift, okay? When there's no other viral or other issues that are impacting here, the best thing that you can do is to start exercising, to start moving, to start getting some load through those muscles to teach your brain that things are actually not as bad as they seem. The thing is with chronic pain, when you've got chronic low back pain, chronic neck pain, chronic pain of any type, is that your brain is actually looking for good, positive inputs to tell it that things aren't as bad as what they might seem. Okay, so quite often we do see patients here with chronic neck pain, chronic back pain, where the pain has actually come from disuse, okay, from muscles not actually being used as much as they could or should be. And the moment they actually start using their muscles, their bodies just wake up. That just feels a hell of a lot better, because they're actually getting some input, getting some nerve signals in through those affected muscles and joints. It reduces the pain because their brains are like, well, it mustn't be quite as bad because I can do this movement and it feels quite good. So often the first thing to do is to start small and work your way up in order to get a bit more movement with the joints and the muscles. Another thing that you can do when you do have chronic pain issues is quite often it's a sensitized nerve that causes the pain issues, okay? So the way that the nerve moves through the arm or through the leg and so on might on its own be perceived by your brain as dangerous, or be perceived by your brain as not being pleasant, okay, being quite threatening. What we need to do with patients that have, or people that have nerve issues going through their arms or through their legs, is to gently ramp up the movement bit by bit by bit. Okay, say for example with my arm here, okay, if you've got a nerve issue with your arm, it might hurt just to, you know, if you're gripping and lifting, it might be some pain in your elbow, it might be some pain into your arm. Where you might start, for example, is to actually rest the arm on a table and just do some gentle movements with your wrist that are pain-free. Because the one thing that we know about nerves is that it doesn't matter whereabouts in the limb that you move, whether it's the finger or the wrist or the elbow, is that the nerve will still move all the way up and down. So what we need to do, instead of completely rest it, completely just immobilize it and not do anything, is actually start grading some movement, okay? We call it graded exposure. Basically what it is moving the injured part or the sore part pain-free, okay, to give your brain some good input to say that this is actually safe. Now, for some people, it might not be pain-free because of some issues there, but if you like, the scale that we use is to the point of first discomfort, okay? Perhaps a 2 or 3 out of 10 discomfort. Basically doing something that hurts a little bit at the time, but doesn't blow you up too much afterwards. And we need to work together to find that common ground. Now, when we do this graded exposure, as we start doing more exercise, more movement, and a bit more challenging your system to get things going, what we find is that your pain threshold starts to decrease. Decrease, yes, that's right. We're not getting the pain coming in at a 10 out of 10 level when we're doing a small sort of movement. The pain is now coming in at, say, a 2 or 3 out of 10 level, and it gets better and better as we go on from there, as we start doing more movement. So the other alternative, of course, is to rest and do nothing, which is the myth we're talking about. If you rest and do nothing, bodies are actually designed to move. They love movement. They like getting into space. They like doing more things, getting your arm out, getting your legs out, walking, expanding your chest to breathe. Our bodies love that. When you stay still and you don't move, your body isn't getting that input that it was designed to do. And so the downside to that is that basically the pain gets worse. It becomes more disuse, and it gives you more risks of all of the other things that can ramp pain up, like putting more weight on, perhaps eating more and not exercising, not getting enough sleep, feeling bad about not being able to do the things that you want to do. So it predisposes you to all of these other things that actually don't help pain whatsoever. So when we're talking about this big myth about that you should rest and only rest when you've got pain, it's not the right thing to do. You need to actually get back on the horse, get back on your bike, so to speak, as soon as we possibly can, even if it's only very, very small, to. So I was talking so much that I actually broke the phone and the battery ran out. But here's the point. If you do have chronic pain issues, if there's a lot of persistent pain, probably the worst thing you can do is to do absolutely nothing. Get moving, get the best advice to know what your pain and your exercise, how they can work together to get the best results. The more strong, the more movement you can get, typically the better it can make you feel, because of all of the things that we were just talking about in that video before. Now, if there's any questions, if you'd like to get a bit more information, please type in below, ask some questions. I'm always happy to educate as much as we possibly can about how chronic pain can be managed better, or in some cases be a thing of the past. Next time we talk, we'll talk about some more myths about chronic pain, but otherwise we will see you again for the next Facebook Live video. Cheers and bye for now.